Welcome to the Last Mile Delivery Podcast, your front row seat to the technological advancements shaping the future of last mile logistics. This podcast includes recordings from our Last Mile Delivery meetup, offering you exclusive insights and discussions about the cutting edge of the final mile in logistics. If you are interested in finding out more about upcoming events, technological updates, and industry news, subscribe to the Bettermile newsletter. The link is in our bio.
Hi, welcome everyone. Give yourself an applause. Welcome to the Last Mile Delivery Meetup. It's been a while since we've met the last time. Can I only remember? That was mid of January, and people had troubles coming here because of snow and stormy weather. We lost some people on the way. Today it's the complete opposite. Welcome to summer, right? That's great. And building the bridge to our topic, last mile delivery. If you look into the depots these days, there are quite some parcels on the way. Is it peak season already? Are the people ordering again? Are we over this period with decreasing parcel volume? We don't know. The future have to tell. Still, the parcel delivery is a little bit in a shaky environment, right? We also see this with some players, especially startups, leaving the stage. So it's still a very, very exciting business that we're in here with and discussing today with Last Mile Delivery Meetup. So welcome in, everyone. It's great that you're here. My clicker doesn't work? Yeah, it does. Last time, our topic was tracking and predictive analytics. Those guys who've joined may well remember we had Adrian talking about AI and how it can be used to calculate bound ranges in ETAs. Quite a nerdy topic, but also quite exciting because it's this real application and a frontier application where we can apply AI in last mile delivery. We had Dana. We also have her again, not a speaker today, but as guest, who explained the impact on tracking data throughout the customer journey, especially when it comes to e-tailers, how important tracking is, and also accuracy of tracking. And we had Patrick from Uber Direct introducing us to the Uber delivery business that they're building up in Europe and US, and also the impact of live tracking onto the customer journey and the customer satisfaction. So I really well remember it was a great event. If you're interested and have missed it, still the content is online. You can check out the videos, and it really gives a good overview from more a business onto the nerdy engineering topics. So this was a really great event, and thanks everyone for making this a success. So today, again, we have quite some participants here, roughly 600, 700 people joining us today. We have more than 100 people on site. If I counted correctly, it's roughly 120. We have them from roughly 400 organizations, companies, from especially from Europe, but also in North America from 27 countries. So it's a really great event, and it's our 6th edition of something where we want to create a real platform. And to this platform belongs, of course, delivery companies. We have as new let me see if I missed this one. We have many delivery companies joining us today. When I remember correctly, we have new joiners, especially from La Poste. We have Dragonfly and Every being part of us now the 2nd time, and also Royal Mail joining. It's really great that we have such a variety of delivery companies here. Also the last mile startups and growth companies that we're able to welcome today. We have Versandmanufaktur as a new joiner here. We have Just Eat, more coming from the food area, like Gorillas as well, and Versenden. We have Liefergrün, not anymore on the table. As you all know, they got out of business in the beginning of this year, unfortunately. Solution providers and tech platforms like Miley, like Seven Senders, like Cardinal Circuit, they're all here and building the platform together with us. Retailers and brands, Lidl Digital with us for the first time, Hilti the third time with us, Home24, Bosch, BVB as a big brand with us. So it's really great to have also these players here building a platform. And we have actually the most new joiners from the retailers and brands. This supports really how much they are interested in last mile delivery business and confirms that the last mile is also part of their value chain somehow, right? So if the last mile delivery doesn't work, the whole user journey is broken, customer satisfaction goes down, etc. And especially welcome to our new joiners from United States. We have USPS with us for the first time. Stuvo as last meter provider with us. Better Trucks for the third time now. The Front Door Collective also for the second time. So it's a really good crowd that we're here. So again, let's establish a community, a platform, and contribute to an exchange of hands-on experience and exciting tech insights. I do this reminder with every meetup that we have. We too often see ourselves as competitors, but it's not true. The competition is somewhere else. It's in the Silicon Valley, the big players that have all the data, collect all the data. We're happy to partner with them, but also us in this room, we should partner. We should put our brains together and really help us each other to improve user experience and productivity in this business. Again, it's Bettermile hosting the last mile delivery meetup, and we're really glad to have you here. Not only me, but also other team members of Bettermile that are present today. Just a reminder, who is Bettermile? Roughly 100 people building a software as a service a platform for last mile delivery. We're roughly in business for 7 years now. We are headquartered in Berlin, but active with our customers in 13 countries. Our our software product suite consists out of Better Places, which is basically address processing and address intelligence engine that does address normalization, geocoding, etc., providing proper addresses, and everyone knows the challenge of address quality. We have Better Route, providing apps, APIs, SDKs, and also devices to our customers that actually help, especially delivery drivers, to navigate through the day, optimize their sequence, fill in and save data for the future. We have Better Tracking, an AI-powered instrument that provides the experience to the consignees, creating bound ranges with estimates of when the parcels will arrive, promoting the position of the delivery vehicle, etc., and creating a gamification-like experience. And we have better control. The users are depot personnel that want to understand in analytics how their drivers actually utilize the tooling, how the progress of the fleet is, etc. So this is what we do, and this was my marketing part for today. Today, we have as focus topic adapting to the future of parcel delivery. And that's quite an interesting one. We're trying to look ahead, not what's tomorrow, not what's concerning us in the next year, but rather what's maybe happening in 10 or 20 years with the help of technology. And I want to give you guys an intro from a digital product perspective, because that's what I do, that's what I have some know-how, and just as a starting ramp for also the other three speakers that I'll introduce you to in a bit. So when we talk about delivery, last mile delivery in the future, I mean, there's some technology already around, right? We have real-time tracking, dynamic sequencing, address intelligence. We discussed in a meetup about location accuracy, address processing and location accuracy. It is about redirecting parcel last minute. We had a dedicated meetup about this topic regarding operations and how to control the delivery fleet in a good way. And do you guys have an overview about all this technology? I often have troubles to really understand it. There's so many technology around, and it's really tricky sometimes to understand how this plays all together. And my team and me sat together and say, let's put this together in one framework. Let's bring this into a future context and really try to make this understandable. And that's what I want to introduce you today. So we asked the question, how will last mile delivery happen in 10, maybe 20 years? And what part of technology do we already have? What do we need to build to actually make this happen? And what are those iterative steps that delivery companies most probably have to take to develop their services into the future? And this is not the future, right? Just for the English speakers under us, it's really someone who put all those papers on a pen to communicate to their delivery driver. I won't disclose the company who was this, to please ring the bell, please deliver. I am at home. I will come down the stairs and accept the parcel. This, for sure, is not the future of delivery. We really have to improve this. Unfortunately, it's still often the case today. So let's ask the question, what do we already know? What will happen in the next years? And from my perspective, I mean, some hypotheses included in there, but there is increasing demand and acceptance of out of home. We know, right? Lockers are spreading everywhere. It's also quite convenient for delivery companies to deliver to lockers, so they will play a big role. But there will also somehow still be home delivery, right? There will be a demand for highest transparency, and this is where actually the parcel is in the delivery. And that's nothing that is driven by parcel delivery companies. I mean, we talked about it in the last meetup, which was about tracking. It is driven by mobility companies, by food delivery. People are just used to see their delivery on a map and have very specific estimated time of arrivals. We also know that monetizing is a big challenge. Usually shippers are only willing to pay an economy price, but the receivers, at least some receivers, want to have a premium delivery. So how to bridge this gap? There will be some sort of monetization in between. And my bet would be that also delivery companies will approach the consignees, provide upgraded services, and monetize this consignee relation as a hypothesis. There will be increasingly automation, not only in the warehouses and the sorting facilities, but somehow also in the delivery, even if it's just recording of data and supporting the delivery drivers or delivery personnel with the actual information to make delivery easier. And there will be autonomous vehicles somehow, sometime, somewhere. We don't know, right? I mean, you read in the news every day, Tesla's having great news, Tesla's having bad news. Chinese players having great news, Chinese players having bad news. We don't know where this autonomous delivery or autonomous driving in general will be heading to. That's also why I'm really happy that we have one speaker who will bring us further insights about this topic. So what we did is we created a strategic framework based on this hypothesis and said, looking down the next 10, maybe 20 years, how will this assemble? And we put it together in a video, and that's what I want to show you today, right? It will take 2 minutes, and have fun.
Real-time tracking, dynamic sequencing, address intelligence, location accuracy, on-the-fly redirects. Various digital solutions for last-mile parcel delivery already exist. But how will parcels be delivered if you perfectly connect those dots? Let's explore this evolution, unfolding it in 5 stages. Intuitive navigation is basically how it has been done for centuries. Well, let's say, for decades. Now to level 1, manual sequencing. The driver plans their daily route based on experience before they start the tour. Coordinates have low precision. ETAs can be calculated, but only as rough time frames. Level 2, static optimization. The delivery sequence is optimized based on an algorithm, but stays static throughout the day. Addresses are geocoded as rooftop coordinates, and ETAs can be updated live. The step from level 2 to level 3 brings the biggest impact, but requires some effort. Dynamic optimization. Drivers start to trust the algorithm as it provides a route that will be dynamically recalculated throughout the day. The driver is supported with precise turn-by-turn navigation. Onboarding or switching areas is easy. Addresses are exact and refined by drivers' past inputs. Customers are experiencing up-to-date deliveries as known from food or transportation services and can easily redirect packages throughout the delivery day. Up to level 3, drivers were mostly in charge. Level 4 takes full claim, intelligent orchestration. Drivers can fully focus on driving and handovers. All routing is done live, with on-the-go updates and from vehicle to door, with an accurate last-meter navigation and handover location. Customers can make real-time changes to their delivery, including paid options for the preferred delivery time. Finally, Level 5 is offering autonomous orchestration. Here, the delivery tour is seamlessly orchestrated and fully adaptive. The driver optionally accompanies the vehicle, which may drive autonomously. ETAs are at the highest precision, and customers have the highest flexibility. In this future, customers are in full control of meeting their parcel, much like being in the driver's seat themselves. So, how ready are you for the next level in delivery orchestration?
So how ready are you delivery companies underneath us? That's maybe the question you have to ask. That's just the perspective of coming from a digital product company providing services for delivery companies. We shared this also online. If you're up to it's free for download, this framework, also dedicated material about it. You can download the video in case you want to share it and you want to work with it. This is really meant to help and support management, consulting firms, respectively, to support their plans for the future. But as said, that's only my point of view. I'm really happy to have 3 fantastic speakers for today. Our first speaker will be Ali Kamil. Ali graduated from MIT, and after graduating, he founded Wise Systems. Many of you will know Wise System as one of the pioneers in dispatching and routing technology in the United States. He joined McKinsey as associate partner last year, and he's based in Boston, Massachusetts. Today, he's connected from Dallas and couldn't make it to be here on site. You will see Ali actually on this screen here. In his speech today, he will focus on digitizing handovers, so the very last bit of the last mile. Ali, we're really happy to have you with us. Give us Ali an applause, please. Speaker number 2 will be Matthias. Matthias Heutger was with DHL for actually over 14 years. That's quite some time.
Actually
Over 20 all in all. Oh, all right. So even more. So when I read it correctly in your vita, the last 4 years you were Senior Vice President globally for innovation. So when we talk about the future of delivery, this guy knows what he's talking about. And we're really excited about your insight. You left DHL roughly a year ago and joined Porsche Consulting as partner. Really interesting, and we're happy to have you here. You will focus in your talk today on the topic of urban logistics and how this will develop in your perspective in the future. So, Matthias, we're really happy to have you here. Give Matthias an applause. And then we have Amin with us. Amin is a true pioneer in developing technology for autonomous driving. He co-founded 3 years ago Loxo. Many of you will know Loxo as one of the pioneers in developing autonomous vehicles for middle and last mile delivery. Obviously, this will be his topic today. So my last little tiny bit in the video where you saw this autonomous delivery vehicle, of course, I will ask Amin the question, will this be the future? When will this happen? You will probably ask the same question. Please welcome Amin. So how will this happen? We'll have, after my introduction now, 15 to 20 minutes per speaker. After every speaker, we'll have 5 minutes of Q&A. So if you have questions, I'll pass around the microphone here in the space. I'll also take remote questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to fill them in the field, in the chat field, in the chat form of your LinkedIn, YouTube, or wherever you are following us. After the last Q&A, we'll have a little panel discussion, and the 4 of us will try to craft a summary and to create an take a look into the overarching look into the future of delivery. And then for those who are on site, we'll start the networking event, open the fridge again, starting the coffee machine again. So really looking forward to speaking with you soon. Last but not least, please sign up for the Bettermile newsletter. This is where all the information, also when the next delivery meetup is happening, will pass around. And also follow us on LinkedIn for more industry news where we regularly publish and really try to foster this community here. All right, now let's dive into the future with Ali.
Hi, everyone. Checking everyone can hear me okay? Fantastic. Well, I apologize I couldn't be there in person today, but I am on this big screen, which looks awfully awkward from when I'm looking at it, in front of all the about 100 plus crowd. But really happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for the invite, the Bettermile team and the meetup, and really looking forward to sharing our perspective on this. So, as Simon shared, the 5 levels of dynamic and autonomous orchestration and how the future looks like, we wanted to cover today. I wanted to cover one of the topics, which is a problem today, but we are seeing improvements and technologies that are solving that problem. So, I wanted to cover this concept of blind handoffs in logistics. And there's a term that has been thrown around, and specifically, we're going to talk about what that means, what blind handoffs are, in the 15-20 minutes of our discussion today. I'm also going to cover the waste associated with this, meaning that if there's inefficiencies that exist in this process right now, but as you work towards this dynamic and autonomous future, what does that look like, and what's the opportunity that exists for startups today and for startups in the future? So many of you thinking about startups or new ideas, still there's a lot of opportunity for innovation and building something new in this. We also look at the current solutions in the market. How are existing leaders and startups looking to solve this, and where does the opportunity lie, and how are companies looking to resolve this in this space as well. Um, uh, with the nature of this being, I think we'll. If you have any questions, feel free to jot them down. I'll allocate about five, like I think we'll have 5 to 10 minutes on this the Q&A. So happy to cover any on all of these topics. Okay. With that, so just wanted to quickly dive in. So blind handoffs. Now, this is a term that again we at McKinsey did not coin. This has been around. It's been thrown out, but the concept is whenever, as Simon actually shared a screen as well with an unknown carrier, where like you need to coordinate. These are complex coordination and communication events that happen for from business to consumer and business to business delivery. Of course, the example we looked at was a business to consumer, and many of us are used to that scenario where we ordered some shipment online and the driver comes to our door, we are not available, or we are upstairs, and we have to figure out a way to coordinate such that I can actually meet the driver and get my package. That's a business to consumer scenario. It requires complex coordination, and we'll talk about what are the existing tools that are there. There's similar and a much larger problem, as you can imagine, that exists in the other aspects as well, which is the from business to business delivery, and specifically final mile, middle mile, and even first mile. Whenever you have a coordination between two or more parties, you need to figure this out: the timing for the meetup, the time window, and the allocation of the resources. So, for our purpose of, we conducted this study research last year and published materials on this, which we can share afterwards as well. But I'm sharing some of the key findings from that. As part of that research, we our focus was looking at the North America market primarily, but the lessons and implications are prevalent globally. So I understand I'm speaking to a European crowd, so I think this is, but the applications here, and I think maybe more so, as having to chatted with and discussed with our colleagues and clients, we see this the applications exist in Europe and globally as well. For our study, we also focused on the middle and the last mile, with the application being also applicable to first mile, where we didn't dive into the specifics of this. So what you see on the screen is these are the handoffs. So if you have a manufacturer looking at a manufacturer from raw material to producer, uh, getting to the producer distributor warehouse, there's going to be a handoff that's required. So you have the first mile, the trucks that need to be delivered to the warehouse location. There needs to be some coordination. You might have heard news of long lines at the warehouses where the dock locations are already occupied, and the trucks and the delivery trucks have to wait in line for their turn. That's a blind handoff, meaning that the time window that was provided wasn't available at the time. There was a delay perhaps in unloading a truck, and so if my delivery is arriving at that location, my driver has to wait because until that dock is open and I can deliver. Same lessons apply for last mile as well. If I'm a business and I'm delivering to a 7-Eleven, I'm arriving to a particular location. If the customer is not available, I have to wait. So these are some of these handoffs, and there are technologies that have emerged, and we'll talk about that as well. But that's how we describe the concept of blind handoffs in logistics. Um, and then we also then you can quantify what is the impact. This may seem like a small, perhaps a small issue, but the cost associated with it adds up. And we have seen this from a business to consumer standpoint. There are costs of communication where the driver has to coordinate with the recipient on when to arrive, and what's the time window. That's some of the technologies, as Simon covered. When you're doing this sort of planning, that's where the time window is provided, so that you can coordinate with the customer. But even if you provide a time window, let's say for a 7-Eleven or a 7-Eleven example, I arrive, the customer is not available, I have to wait. That's what we call dwell time, meaning that I have to wait, so that until the customer is ready, I have to be able to figure out and when to meet my recipient, so that I can deliver on my goods. Similarly, there's a cost of lost packages. If I'm unable to coordinate with you for a delivery, I'll leave it at the porch, or leave it at a particular location. Sometimes they're stolen, sometimes they're lost. There's a cost associated with that, and then there's a cost of redelivery. That if I need a signature, some of these express companies require signature. If you're not available at home, I have to come back again. There are costs associated with every step of this process, and these costs add up for delivery the companies, for shippers specifically. And then similarly, you can extrapolate that there are costs for business to business as well. That from our earlier example, if I'm delivering to a warehouse, I have a cost, I have a dwell time. My trucks are waiting in the yard, so that when the dock is available, I can go ahead and do my delivery. So that's these are the and we quantify these costs, and the cost of each allocation adds up, and it creates, not just there is a quantifiable cost as well, but there are also indirect costs, which I'm going to also cover next. So as you can imagine, some of the indirect costs with this is cost of experience. Now experience for drivers, for the customers like you and I. For the drivers, most of the drivers in the industry are paid by the number of deliveries they do. So if I'm a delivery driver, I'm doing about 120 to 200 deliveries in a day. I get paid based on that. I don't get paid for the time that I'm wasting trying to coordinate. The time that I'm waiting for the customer to be available. Now that if you can cut that time down, if you can solve this problem, it not only improves my experience, it improves the driver pay, it improves the retention as well. So there are these indirect costs that we also looked at as well, which we also realized. And as customers, I think many of us are familiar with this, where there is customer satisfaction issue. If I don't get my delivery in time, if I have a bad shipment experience, I'm unlikely to order again from that retailer. So, and then based on many research and recent report, about 84% of the recipients reported that they're unlikely to return to that vendor if there is an adverse experience. Now that's a significantly high percentage, and you can imagine. Again, there is a window here, but that there is an impact to experience for drivers and customers. And in the industry that we play in, specifically logistics, driver retention, driver turnover are significant problems that many of our clients, many logistics operators are dealing with every day. And then the other two factors for this are the environmental costs, where I'm waiting in the parking lot for 7-Eleven. Again, there are emissions costs associated with that. There's wastage. There's, of course, productivity waste as well. So there are direct costs and indirect costs associated with this issue of blind handoffs, and something that we think is something we take this for granted. But in the future, as Simon laid out earlier, we believe that's a problem that many companies are going to resolve, and that's something that's going to be seamless orchestration, autonomous orchestration, where you are able to dynamically connect with the delivery provider. Okay, and then just quickly covering again, this is just talking about that blind handoff is part of the larger value chain in logistics. Now, I'm going to not spend too much time on this. This is more of the how different domains, from order placement to planning to orchestration to visibility to coordinating the handoff between, and then the supply chain management solution. So it sits somewhere in the middle. There are companies that are trying to provide this, but it's part of the larger, much more complex value chain that we have seen. And then So how do companies or our drivers solve this today? And I think as you would imagine, the key the prevalent solution that we have seen is phone calls and text messages. As you would imagine, I think this is something we still resort to. If I'm trying to reach someone, email gets buried, I still use my text and phone. That still remains the prevalent norm. But phone calls when the driver is driving are risky, hazardous, and not supported, of course. Um, and there are elements and new technologies that have emerged that are trying to automate this process, that providing predictive ETAs, like giving a view of the, and we have seen this with Uber, Lyft, and other ride hailing companies that provide a view of where the driver is when the driver is moving towards you. Similar experience are just provided by a lot of these applications and software, where they provide a view where the driver is when they're arriving. But even then, to coordinate, if I'm not available at home, it requires text messaging and other elements to coordinate with this, with the driver and between the customer. So but the prevalent method is phone calls, text message, and it's a back and forth between the driver and the recipient. Okay. um, Now, we talked about the problem. We discussed what are the prevalent solutions. This problem is going to continue to compound over the next few years as we see growth in e-commerce and other elements. Like, of course, there was a big bump post COVID during the COVID years, but we see this trend continuing at growing at a rate of 6% year over year. And this problem, if not solved properly, will lead to significant waste and adverse experience. So that's where I think we see a lot of funding and investment going for many companies into this. And that takes us to my next page, which is, we have seen there is significant funding that has gone into logistic solutions that are trying to build this. And of that, about over the last 10 years, we have seen about close to 12 billion, almost 12% of that is going into companies that are trying to solve this specific issue of complex coordination, planning, and providing a visibility into this. So this is a problem that's well known, but still we have seen solutions that exist, but there is still opportunity, at least from what we have seen in the market. And then if you look at if you look at the where the funding has gone, so of the 12 billion in the past about 10 years, we have seen funding go into four different types of archetypes of companies that exist that are trying to solve this in one way or another. The first is the concept was, and this is early stages, and that's the most amount of funding, about 70 to 80% has gone into this, is real-time track and trace visibility. Now, that's where the idea was, and it still is in some areas, that if you shed light on it, if you provide visibility of this problem, that's going to solve the problem. That's going to solve the complex coordination that will enable the driver or even the dispatcher who's sitting at the back can call the customer and let them know that driver's on the way, they'll arrive in this location or at this time. That solves some part of the problem. The next series of startups that we have seen, including companies like Bettermile and others, that get diving deep into AI-based workflow automation or workflow innovation. Now, that is providing like some sort of a predictive capability: when the driver is going to arrive, when are they going to be in this location, and some sort of a virtual dispatcher experience, where so that the recipient and the dispatcher and the driver, there's three-way communication that can happen. That's through an app-based model, where I have an application similar to an Uber application, where I can track where my driver is. I can get the ETA and see when they're going to arrive, and then ability for me to communicate through them, again through text messages or through phone calls. Now, the third area that we have seen, this is more recent, in the last almost a year and a half, has been the advent of creating these co-pilots, which is very similar to app-based model, but creating these Gen AI-based conversational interface that the driver or the recipient can communicate with the driver or communicate with the driver's agent. So there's an agent on behalf of the driver, and and if I'm a recipient, I'm able to communicate that, hey, I'm not available. I'll be there between 4 and 4:30. Can you arrive at that time? And that then, based on that message, there is dynamic readjustment of the route that happens, so that instead of me being Ali, the driver, heading towards a particular location for the customer, my route is automatically adjusted, and that's where I go to the recipient that's available and maybe come back. So it saves me that trip to that location. So we have seen the three software-based innovations, and that was the focus of that our study as well. One area which is very prevalent in Europe, not so in North America, is the use of contactless delivery methods, and that's something that we did not pursue, because that's more physical, establishing personal lockers, or even drone delivery, which is in some areas being trialed. But the use of lockers has emerged, especially in Europe and Asia, as a way to avoid this issue. But it requires capital expense on creating these lockers and creating this coordination. Our focus was creating these software-based, AI-based approaches to do this. Right. Um, and then we talked about impact. If the companies who are able to solve this, what kind of impact they can have, what kind of improvement they can see in their operations. And based on our research, and based on some of the companies that have realized some of these gains, we see this, that for the you see, of course, a lot of the greatest impact is for companies that are asset heavy, meaning that they operate their own commercial fleet. Now, if you're middle mile or last mile, and maybe I'm going to cover for the last mile, for the last mile delivery, last mile meetup, that we have seen that for companies that have employed this, they have achieved about 20-30% increase in driver productivity, about 15 to 20% improvement in driver retention, driver experience, and then about increase in successful deliveries, about from 2 to 5%. And that, all of that combined, that has significant impact to the bottom line of the operator. That's up to 6 to 8% EBIT impact. So that's companies that are able to solve this and solve this properly have seen like real gains in this field, and not just capital gains, but also from the experience of their employees and drivers. And then similarly, for asset light companies, these are companies that do not have their commercial fleet but contract this out. If they're able to employ this, if they work with a company that does this, they're able to renegotiate contracts and also have realized benefit from these. So from getting the solution in place, we have seen impact that has been driven by both by logistics operators, as well as from asset heavy and asset light carriers. And then just wanted to cover quick examples of how our companies looking to solve this. And there are some examples, and I'm going to cover them as case studies as well, what we have seen in the industry. So there are companies that are looking to solve this through various approaches. So one is they do in-house development. Now, this is an example of there's a North America-based operator called Ryder. Now, Ryder is a third-party logistics operator, also one of the leaders in this space, and they have opted the route of partnership with a TMS vendor, but also worked and built their own solution, which we call Ryder Share, and that's an example of in-house development, that they have the tech capability and the tech capability and the partnership with the right player to build the solution that they provide to their customers. So they're approaching this in this way. The other is some of the established players who have added some of these like add-on capabilities. So they're partnering with XL Logistics, like a Blue Yonder, which is one of the established players, has added this add-on capability that does this sort of providing the visibility and providing the sort of solving this, attempting to solve this handoff problem. And the third, what we have seen is the best of breed innovation. And that is like, for example, as the Triple T Logistics has opted to go the visibility route. And the visibility, as we saw in a previous slide, is that the industry perspective was that if you shed light on it, we're going to solve at least 80 to 90% of the issues. And that's one of the examples where they have partnered with one of the leaders, like Four Kites in the space, to solve this problem. So there are multiple ways that companies have attempted to address this. And then, but having said that, there are we believe there is about 25 billion of waste that exists in this space, and the funding that specifically that's been secured in the last few years has been about close to 8 to 12 billion on this. So there is still opportunity that exists for companies to solve this, for companies to either build it in-house, to do this either partnership, or for startups to come in and solve this in a new and novel ways. But for companies to do this, I think the struggle to implement solutions are not new, or something that is we have seen from our standpoint. When we look at companies from our outside lens, they've struggled, and those struggles are traditional software implementation, whereas lack of strategic alignment. You need to be able to get implement solutions, have alignment across from your operators on the ground to your leadership. There is lack of required capabilities. If you don't have the technical capability or the innovation team that does this, that's also a problem. And then even if you build this, there is the change management problem, which is a significant problem in the field, where the drivers have to adopt it. They have to buy into it. And the problems with these agents is that if the drivers, because the nature of the work is it's so driven by speed and being able to maximize the number of deliveries they do in a day, that if we get the recommendation, one or two recommendations wrong, the drivers don't adopt it. So I think that's where the challenge still exists in the market, where the change management is a huge challenge in driving adoption for both drivers as well as operators. Right? So, and then quickly wanted to cover. I covered some of the impact. I think for Ryder coming back, they have seen impacts in efficiency and customer efficiency as well. We have seen that delivery window, that they can provide a 2-hour or fewer delivery window to your customers. The key capabilities they provide is real-time tracking, sharing the visibility, and then self-serve scheduling and notifications, as well as the impact of, and then having this sort of like chat-based interface that exists over there. And I know I'm running short of time, so move to questions. And then the more recent startup, I touched upon this, is a GPT-powered chat engine that provides this co-pilot capability for drivers as well as the recipient. So you can, similar to chatting with the Chat GPT, you can have some sort of a GPT engine where you can engage with the driver, the co-pilot directly. So there is some movement as well. AAA is an operator in North America. So that, I think that wraps up my presentation today. Many thanks for the opportunity. Of course, I'm based in Boston. My colleague Julian is in the crowd, so you can also reach out to him as well. So really, thank you, Simon, for the opportunity, and I'm happy to take questions with the team.
Thanks, Ali. That was a great example. We all learned about blind handovers now and how to prevent. I'm really glad that you brought some insight into the startup scene here, like what's going on in especially North America. So really exciting. I was laughing a little bit and looking into my teammates' eyes when you brought up in this one case study the star rating of 4.7 with real-time tracking. That's also exactly what we see at Bettermile, 4.7 out of 5 star ratings. So it seems to be the industry norm of real-time tracking and consignee ratings respectively. Okay, now we come to a short Q&A. I would pick a first question from the crowd here. And before I do, you guys online, please use the chat field. I'll then see it here on my tablet and can read out the questions. Any questions here on site for Ali? Any questions? No? Online, we also don't have any questions. You guys wanted to ask something, no? Right? Oh, good. Ali, then I guess you fully answered all questions and brought a really good overview for the topic. Thanks again. Matthias, you would be next. Welcome, Matthias, on stage.
First is the microphone test. Can you hear me? Yep. I need the clicker, Simon. Thank you. Thanks, Simon, for having me, to the team to invite me. Very interesting topic. I think Ali covered. I mean, have been working for, as I mentioned, for DHL for quite a while. It is certainly a topic not been solved yet. I'm not going to talk about software and coding. So I look at the topic slightly from a different perspective. Also because we just published a white paper on the whole topic of urban deliveries and urban delivery on the last mile. And I think as important as some of the optimization is and some of the stuff you guys do as well, eventually there's still a physical transport of a parcel that has to come from A to B. So what I want to look at is actually really, we are foreseeing a significant gap in capacity, particularly hitting the cities in Germany, but also in Europe. And that's what I want to a little bit dive into and also see how can we jointly find some solutions to that upcoming challenge. So maybe just to give it a bit of perspective, we heard from Ali already, there's a lot of e-commerce is still booming. And if you just look at Germany by 2030, I mean, the current estimated number is 5.4 billion parcels per year. It's a lot of parcels, and that's just Germany. And it's actually like triple the number than 1 decade ago. So it grew a lot, and it's still growing. And I think we heard that before, and I think I would agree to that. It's maybe a little bit slowing down after COVID, but it's still growing. And just give you a perspective, and if you look at, I think globally, I think depends on how you calculate the numbers, but it's a very similar development. I think from 160 billion parcels per year, 2022, it's estimated to grow close to 300 billion parcels in a few years from now. It's a very big number, very abstract. So just to look at that, so if you put all those parcels in a line, it's 2.2 million kilometers. So it's and this is just Germany. It's just Germany in 1 year. So a lot of parcels that need to be transported. And that would kind of equate to 55 times around the globe. So just give you a perspective how many parcels have been like delivered and put through the whole system every year. And again, this is just Germany, and you can take your own math to see how long that would be if you do it on a global scale. So if you then look at how are those parcels mainly still delivered today, there's a lot of innovation, and again, I've been working there in innovation, looking at different ways of mode of autonomous travel, of parcel lockers, of many other modes of getting the parcels to the end consumer. Still, 95% is still delivered by delivery vans. That number is probably percentage-wise going down, but not in absolute terms yet, right? So it's more like covering some of that with alternative modes. So it's a lot of vans running around, particularly in cities and also in rural areas. If you then look at some recent developments in cities, this is just an example, so that kind of the responsible person in the city of Hamburg shared with us that they really want to limit very rigidly traffic into their cities, just because of congestions. It's also because they need more road space for bike lanes and some other developments. So they really want to limit the amount of parcels delivered by light commercial vehicles, so vans and the like, to 45%. So if you compare that with the 95% before, there's huge development that we need to find alternative modes to get those parcels to the end consumers. Again, this is not just Hamburg. This is also, if you look at just a few examples, We have more on the white paper as well that we published. So Barcelona, they're doing like nighttime trials. So really see, can we maybe take the traffic off the daytime into the night times to kind of balance off the traffic. Similar developments in Zurich. And I think we just talked about like Bern as well. I think you're going to share a little bit of that. They're really doing like trying to figure out how can we maybe do like multi-stage hubs, like outside the cities, multi-distribution hubs, and then micro hubs to really find different ways to get that path into the cities, creating less traffic. Paris, they have this very nice idea of this 15-minute city. I'm not sure if you have heard about that. So they really want to make sure that everything within your community you can reach by foot or by bike in 15 minutes. So very localized business again, which again, with like restrictions in traffic, restrictions in speed limits, will put more pressure on how do we deliver those parcels to the cities. So why do I say that? If you compare those two developments, we're clearly running into what I would call a capacity dilemma, right? So this year or last year, it's pretty balanced. So we had a certain volume, we had a certain capacity, mostly by van and a few other modes. If you now look in 2030 and like we are kind of following those numbers, the parcel volume is increasing in cities as well, and the van capacity is decreasing. So it's a very easy math. There's a lag there and a gap, and we really need to figure out how do we address the dilemma of increasing parcel volumes and decreasing capacity. So, and that's why I want to look a little bit into with you together what can be done there. So, and there are two ways really. One thing is modes. So what are other ways to really physically transport and get the package there? The second thing, hopefully, is we talked about it a lot. I will only cover it briefly. How can we maybe do some digital solutions to help and make that process more efficient and utilize the assets we have better than we do today? So if you look at some of these, I think many are familiar. I've worked on many of these and piloted them. Some are more mature than others. I'm still surprised. There's still a lot of talk about drones. It's very fascinating. I believe it will remain a niche application and a nice niche application. There was some, I think, just a new announcement recently, I think, from Wings and Dorsop in the US to again try to do some food deliveries. So I think there will be a place for like urgent shipment food deliveries, but it won't help us to really close that gap in a significant way. If you look on the pickup solutions, I think parcel lockers and also like Pudo Station, I think you all know those. Those are, I think, very promising. And they are developing, they're already in place. But we still have to see how much capacity can they really cover from like what vans would cover. I think, you will talk a little bit later about like autonomous driving. That would also help to some extent to really address also some driver shortages and some other resource constraints. But again, there's a lot of development here, but I think it's nothing yet so revolutionary that it will really significantly replace van capacity. And just have a look at that. So the three most common ones. So we have parcel lockers, we have vans, and we have cargo bikes. And you can always argue into the numbers. I think they're directionally okay. Parcel lockers are a very cost-efficient solution. I mean, you have an initial investment, but then typically, because you don't have second attempts for delivery, a few other advantages, they're a very efficient way of doing it. Might not be the first choice of customers. So I think if you look at different studies, different countries, still 60 to 80% of consumers prefer doorstep deliveries. Varies by country, and also probably by age, but still different generation. But I think generally that's kind of the range we are talking about. So parcel lockers and Pudos are good alternative, and I think that it's growing. The acceptance is growing, but they still don't have that same perceived service quality like a doorstep delivery. Cargo bikes, I think, are very interesting. As of today, they're in most areas still a bit more expensive. I think I just read a study, I think, done in London, that they actually, in some areas that are so congested that you can't really get through with your van, there actually you can deliver more parcels per hour with the cargo bike than you can do with a van. So again, but it will complement it, because the parcels very large, you can't do it. But I think those two are probably the most promising ones. A lot of development here, and they're already being rolled out. But if you look at, so that's kind of on the physical side. If you look on, and that's I want to cover briefly. I mean, you guys work a lot on like the digital solutions, so really looking into how can we better utilize those vans, right? So whatever you can achieve in terms of efficiencies, utilization of the vans, route optimization, does help, of course, because you need less capacity to deliver more parcels, right? So that's kind of make the whole system more efficient. So I continue working on that. I think it's important, but it's complementing, I think, the hardware side of the game. So if we now look again, what I said earlier, so we have that dilemma here, and if you now look at just some ideas, and again, the numbers vary a little bit what I said on the application. You need definitely more cargo bikes to replace one van. Just the capacity is not the same, right? And more importantly, you need more drivers, which is a big constraint in many countries these days. You need more cars, so more vehicles. You need more drivers, and you typically also have to invest in some micro hub structure because otherwise you can't really refill the bikes. Parcel lockers, very similar. Again, they are more cost efficient, but you need space. There's an initial investment. And also, if you look at the average parcel locker, they have less compartments typically than you would fit in a van. And they last longer in one parcel locker than typically more than 1 day. So you have kind of, again, capacity constraints. You need more of the same type of investment and hardware, so to say, and assets. And also, if you look at, I think, just take DHL as an example because I know the numbers better. I think they now have 15,000 parcel lockers as of last year in Germany, which is doubling the number in the last few years. It still only makes maybe 12% of the total delivery volume. So it's a huge investment, a lot of parcel lockers. So if you really want to replace 20, 30%, that's a lot of parcel lockers we have to install across the countries. So that's why we kind of assume that there still will be a gap of around 30% by 2030 if the cities really are serious about restricting traffic and we see the continuous growth of the volumes. So what does it mean now? So before I go into some ideas, let's just put a little bit perspective on, I think we heard it earlier already, how important the last mile is also for the overall e-commerce value chain. First thing is cost. It is a significant portion of the overall cost of the value chain. Again, it typically is more than 50% of the cost per parcel sit on the last mile. On emissions, the same. I think this is something that's going to change, maybe not in percentage-wise, but in absolute terms, the more we electrify the vans and the last mile activity, I think the absolute number will go down. Percentage, probably not, but again, it's not a significant issue anymore, I think, in a few years. The big topic for me is also the experience and the impact on the overall customer excitement or customer experience, not just for the pure delivery, but also for the shopping experience. And that for me, when I just want to briefly introduce this, what we call the delivery triangle. So you really have a very interesting relationship here. If you think about it from a carrier perspective, like DHL or GLS, you really don't have a relationship with the end consumer. Typically, the decision who decides on which carrier to use is typically the shipper, right? Based on delivery cost, service quality, coverage, and a few other factors. But the actual only physical touch point happens between the carrier and the consumer. But they don't really have a contractual or business relationship. But they still rate them on their performance, obviously. And then your shopping experience that is then really impacting the shipper is highly impacted by the delivery experience of the end consumer. So there's a lot of dynamics happening. I think whatever solutions we develop, and you guys do that, whatever kind of additional delivery methods we introduce, we have to have that in mind because consumers have certain preferences. And if we don't meet them, that customer experience will suffer. So a little bit just on, so what is needed to close that gap? And I think we talked about a lot of the methods already and a few other things. I think there are a few things we probably have to attack in order to really close that gap significantly. One thing is continue working on utilization of logistics assets. And that is very important. That it's not just the last mile, but it would be also in fulfillment and parcel centers. And many of those type of operations are still not up to the 100% ideal, I would say, utilization and capacity. But also on the last mile, we do like smart packaging can help, right? Just to reduce the pure volume of it. Automation, route planning, you guys talked about that. So that is all about utilizing the existing assets we have much better. Second topic is, and there are some pilots around there too, really push the boundaries and use other assets that are already in the cities. Like, taxis, Uber is doing it already in some deliveries, subways, some other kind of assets, waterways. So most of the cities have waterways, have some other type of assets you could leverage. You just have to find the right solution. There are some mobile parcel lockers, right? You can put into subways, and then people can, on their way to work, they can pick it up, and then the mobile stations go back to the micro hub overnight and gets refilled. Not at scale yet, but there are ideas, and I think that's something we need to push more, so we don't add more traffic and more assets to the cities, but rather use those assets that are already available. The third, and that's probably the hardest, I think it's really the consumer behavior to some extent has to change. I hate to say it because we can't force, and we are consumers, so we don't like that. So I think and for me, it's different ways. One thing is really create some value by using some of the alternative delivery methods. So they're really kind of more receptive to those. But also, I think we have to also face the topic, how can we reduce parcel volumes? I mean, there are things idea like, for example, virtual wardrobes or other things to really reduce returns. I know, as a delivery company, you don't want to really reduce volumes, right? You want to rather increase them, obviously. But I think if you look at the overall picture, there needs to be some attempt to probably at least be smarter about that. And then also, I think we heard it earlier, we need probably have a bit of a more differentiated pricing for the last mile. So it could be a premium for door drop-offs. It could be some other way of incentives if you use something else. I'm not sure if I would agree that there will be that the carrier will really put a premium to the end consumer. I think what Simon said earlier, I think that will be tricky. It probably has to be initiated by the shipper. But also some topics that we need to look into in order to really address that gap in a sustainable way. So already coming to the end, some key takeaways. So e-commerce for me, in last mile, are here to stay. So it's not going to go anywhere. I think I don't believe that we will have 3D printers, everybody at home in the future, and we don't do any online shopping anymore. There might be some of it, but certainly not to the extent that is needed to address that. I think pick-up and drop-off points and parcel lockers and bikes, I think, are very promising alternative to vans. But as I mentioned, I don't think they will really fully be able to close the gap right now just because of the capacity constraints. We have new transportation modes. I mean, some of them we talked about. There is some digital solution that would help to really partly close the gap, but probably not fully. And customers still want to have a choice. So I think we have to take that in mind. That still want. I mean, I'm sure you guys are all on the same page here. And we need to manage that relationship between the three kind of main players in that last mile delivery triangle to really achieve something that is accepted by all of them. And last but not least, we need to better utilize our assets. And we possibly need to look into changing consumer behavior by reducing parcel volumes, accepting different methods, and also have different pricings. So this is just a short marketing here as well from my side. So if you want to have more details, I'll just really glance through it very quickly. There's a white paper came out today with all the content and more on this. Feel free to scan and download it. Or contact me afterwards. I'm still around. In closing, I would like to, with a famous quote of Ferry Porsche. So in the beginning, I looked around and could not quite find the car I dreamed of, so I decided to build it myself. And that for me should be the spirit that I want to leave you guys with, to really build some new solutions that would help to close the gap. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matthias. Thanks, Matthias. That was really exciting. Any questions here from on-site? Before I take the question, the reminder, everyone who's following us in the live stream, please use your chat functions to ask questions. And I'll just pass it to him.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Martin Schmidt. I'm doing cycle logistics on the last mile deliveries with parcels. And the first question is, what do you mean with volume? The amount of parcels will rise, or the size of one shipment will rise?
The number. We base it on the number of parcels.
The amount of parcels.
Yes, the volume kind of stays
because
same. Yeah.
So one thing to bring up the productivity is to reduce the volume of one parcel because we are transporting much air right now.
That's why maybe like smart packaging, to really get smarter about how we package parcels. I agree. Yeah, that's one way of doing it.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I will also stand up. Hi, I'm Dario from Bettermile. I work here. Great presentation. I had a question. In the last slide, you showed how to fill in this gap, right, for this missing 30%, but you didn't mention the driver. So, like, how can we push drivers or to have more drivers, let's say, delivering parcels? What are the possibilities there? Do you imagine
more drivers? Or I mean, I think one thing is better utilized. So, like, equip the drivers so they can be more productive. Yeah. I'm not sure you will find so many more drivers.
Because there are, in the sense that there are also other projects in the sense that maybe there are more flexible contracts where I could just take my own car and deliver parcels tonight. I could drive to the depot and deliver some parcels.
I think there are some ways, like the Uber approach or like transport as a service, where you can use existing like taxis or some others as well as kind of to do some transport. And I think that's where you guys come in. It really needs a lot of coordination and communication and connection of But I mean, if I just took a taxi today, so that's a long way to go, I think, before it's going to work. But I think in principle, I agree. I think it's more about, I don't think it's more about like not hiring many more drivers, but rather use the infrastructure better and also equip the drivers better so they can be more productive.
Okay, so it's rather using the existing infrastructure
Yes.
and improve the productivity.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Yeah, take one more. Martin.
Martin Voigt, an e-commerce entrepreneur. Could it be a solution that cities assign a postal code to a specific company so the parcels could be consolidated? Huh?
I mean, I'm open to that. I don't know, but I think it's that would mean that you would then force certain shippers to only use one specific company for one specific zip code, which I think will be tricky because there will be no competition in that zip code anymore. But we had that a long time ago when we still had the Deutsche Post in Germany. So, not sure. I think it might be probably. I don't think. I think it would be a more promising approach to consolidate, and then have to share capacity across carriers. It's maybe politically not easier done, but I think it could be. I think that probably it makes more sense. The idea is right because you have a lot of vans driving in the same neighborhood, right? And I think I tried it once and I was able to get 6 different vans to meet on one day. So it's, not very efficient. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else, Sam?
I have a question from remote, asking why do you think that the carriers are not able to become a real user-centric company where they can have the last mile user experience in their hand and become a market-leading company? So I guess this question just refers to why do they not more focus on users? Why are they more user-centric?
I think there are 2 answers to that question. One is I'm not sure they're not. I think many would like to be, but it's also initially the retailer or the merchant holds the customer relationship and the customer data, and not the shipper. So the relationship is between those two. And I think they would have to establish an additional, unless you send a package, you don't have any relationship with the carrier. So they would have to find some additional value that is worth creating another kind of relationship.
Yeah. And also the usage of the data is actually very limited. So you can only use it in that very specific case.
So I think the retailers wouldn't like that idea. That's one part. I think they want to keep the customer relationship, they want to keep the data of those customers. Plus you really have to create some kind of additional value as a carrier in order to kind of justify to do that. I think they're trying to be customer-centric with the delivery service itself, because it's kind of indirect, right? Because if they have a better service and a better rating, then the shippers are more likely to use them than somebody else.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for the questions. I would say we go to the next speaker.
Thanks.
Amin, we are really glad to have you here.
Thank you. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thanks to Bettermile team for inviting me and having me here. It's a pleasure to meet some new people here. Today I will talk about the future, on the tech side of the future, autonomous driving. My talk is quite complementary to what has been presented by other speakers. So Ali presented very well the focus on the middle mile, how big is this market, how important is this sector of the market. And then we also learned about the new and the alternative solution to the conventional delivery vans, and autonomous delivery is one alternative that I will focus on today. I'm from Luxo. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Luxo. Luxo is a startup based in Switzerland, and we are developing the autonomous driving technology, especially for the middle mile transport. So who we are, our mission is to build this driverless technology in Europe for Europe. And we are 3 co-founders, started the company after some years of research in 2021. And we are already on the road. So I'm not talking too much about the future, but also about what is happening today now on the public roads. And this is a bit of the marketing for me. We have a solution which is called Luxo Digital Driver. So beforehand you ask what are the alternatives? Can we find more drivers? We strongly believe yes, but the digital version of it. So this is what we are doing. Let's start with explaining how we position ourselves and how the autonomous driving technology market is getting a shape. So we see a lot of what I would call the moonshot technologies trying to solve the hardest engineering challenge nowadays to bring robotaxis on the public streets. I think from the software complexity, this is the hardest challenge to solve. So therefore we said, and it's the same with the B2C. Why I'm saying this is the hardest challenge to solve? Because if you want to develop a technology that goes everywhere, on every single street, in different cities, different countries, this will take really a lot of time. So, but we want to see an impact on our customer already now. So therefore we have decided to focus on whatever we call the fixed routes application. In the slide that Ali has presented, you have seen the links between the different warehouses, between different hubs. So they are representing the fixed routes. And why we are focusing on that? Because the AI can learn from repetitive tasks much, much, much faster. And therefore we can really bring something to the market now. So this is our positioning today. And I think this is a solvable problem within a very, very reasonable time frame with all the technology that we have from the AI perspective. So where do we focus? I mean, we are focusing on the, you have heard the word of micro hubs in previous presentations. So we focus on the hub to micro hubs deliveries. Also hub to hub, you have a lot of B2B industrial, you have plenty of hub to hub examples on the market, and you have also hub to shops. So you need to fulfill the shops because we are still not placing all the grocery purchasing online, but we are also going to the shops. So we have to fulfill them, especially in the very crowded cities. This is, I don't need to introduce to you the market because this has been well covered by the previous presentation. So this is a growing market, and the issue is that we don't have enough driver. So, you have seen in the Matthias presentation, the pressure on the cost side is a lot. We are talking about 1-2 euros, and this is close to nothing. And this is already a lot. And the companies are pushed to reduce this pricing, while they have already the problem of finding enough drivers. So these two things are not really making the life of this market quite easy. But if you look to the realistic data that we have applied our business model to the customer's existing business case, you can see we can already impact it by 25 to 50%. This is depending on which market segment we are talking. Is a hub to micro hub or hub to shops. And yeah, obviously we can replicate this digital driver as many as we want, so we are not necessarily depending to the biological growth. Last year we have put a vehicle, I mean, first of all, let's make it clear, we are not a car manufacturer, we are building the technology of autonomous driving. So here, what you see here is our prototype cars that we have put on the public road in Switzerland last year for the biggest grocery company, it's called Migros in Switzerland. And they have been using that still in the hub-to-hub, not B2C delivery. So we were delivering from one Migros shop to a big campus. So here I would like to first of all invite you to watch these videos. If you can quickly play the videos.
Heute sind wir in Ebikon, zu schauen, wie das erste selbstfahrende Auto von der Schweiz Migros-Bestellungen ausliefert. Let's go! Bestellungen kommen bei Migros-Filialen in der Mall of Switzerland online an und Mitarbeiter bereiten sie vor. Das hier ist der Loxo. Das ist das erste selbstfahrende Auto, das auf der Schweizer Straße fahren darf. Während dem Pilotversuch können nur die Mitarbeiter der Firma Schindler Bestellungen machen. Der Loxo hat es geschafft und wir warten jetzt auf die glücklichen Personen, die bestellt haben. Wenn der Test gut verläuft, kannst du vielleicht auch nächstes Mal beim Loxo bestellen.
So first of all, it makes me happy. I see the Berliner, they love Swiss accents. So yeah, as I told you, I come from Switzerland, so I brought you a bit of the Swiss accent in German. So this is the video. So whatever you have seen has been done last year. So what was the main goal of such a project? To demonstrate if this technology is able to drive on the public road. And part of that is also linked to the regulation that I will cover in the coming slides. So you have seen it is possible to have driverless technology on the public road. And I think if we focus on the middle mile with the fixed routes, then we can easily scale it up. So from the business perspective, there is always one question: can we have what we call level 5 of automation? So as you have seen in the introduction, we have 5 levels of fleet orchestration. We have exactly the same for automation of the vehicles. So let's say the level 5 means technology that can go everywhere. But to be honest, at the time being, we don't have, and in the near future, we will not have level 5 autonomous driving. We will have level 4. What does that mean? It means that there is a technology that most of the time, majority of the time, it drives itself. Nevertheless, we need something that we call human on the loop. Not in the loop, but on the loop. It means that the moment that the car doesn't feel safe, it can request a human driver to support the car for decision making. So then from the business perspective, the main question is, if you have a remote driver, how many cars that remote driver can handle at one time? Because if you have a 1-to-2 relation or 1-to-1 relation, there is no business case, obviously. So the question in this project was, okay, what is the ratio? So if you can see on the automation rate, we can conclude on a quite easy to medium use case, we can have a ratio of 1-to-20 or even 1-to-25. Means one remote operator can supervise 25. So from the business perspective, it opened a completely new chapter from the customer side. Say, well, I can grow having digital driver, and only 1-to-25 I need a driver. So that gives a lot of opportunity, and we have also measured the interaction of the customer. So it's also a bit surprising that we see 4.6, so not 4.7, but nevertheless, for the first pilot that we did, we are extremely satisfied with the customer as well. Okay, so starting from this project that you have seen the video, now we are building a new concept that we call it a city hub concept. So Swiss cities or also some German cities, they are quite proactive to thinking about the new concept of the city logistica. And so we are realizing that using autonomous driving, using our technology, how everything works. So you have normally the goods which are arrived at the city hub by normally trains. And then from there you have to do the middle mile. So you have to go to the micro hubs that you have. And the idea is that we are going to cover this part by autonomous delivery. Again, I need to repeat that is the repetitive routes, so you can learn and scale much, much faster. And then you still let the human being do the hardest part, because you have heard all the challenges of the handover process. And I think autonomous driving are definitely not the perfect solution for the handover, because we cannot take the lift. This is something that we are now realizing in city of Bern. If you come in Switzerland, I would be glad to show you how everything works. Let's talk also about the technology, how the technology works. So we equip the vehicles, delivery vans with sensors. We use cameras. We use LiDAR. LiDAR are the laser sensors, so they beam the laser around. And then you have also the radar. So in the digital driver, you have two main parts. The first part, which is, we call it Lux of User, is an AI-based end-to-end model, which drives the car. But before trusting the AI decision, how to drive on the public street, because we are talking about safety critical application here. Of course, we are talking about city application. The speed is medium to low, but nevertheless, even with the 30-40 kilometers per hour, you can unfortunately kill people. So before listening blindly to the AIs and saying, okay, I just listen and I execute the decision on the AI on the vehicle, we somehow monitor it. We validate the decision of the AI by some rules which are based on the code of the road codes that we call it. So the legislative that we have, exactly the same rules that you need to follow when you have the driving license. So therefore, we validate that, so we can somehow, in a deterministic way, we can demonstrate to the authorities that, yes, we know what we are doing, so we are not just hyping the AI. We use the power of the AI, nevertheless, the AI is not the best instrument for safety, therefore we keep the safety separated. And then, the moment the decision of the AI is validated, then we execute it. So, and when this digital driver does not work, it goes to a safe state and asks the remote driver to support the vehicle for the decision making. And so if we can quickly see this video, actually, here is the example of Bern. So on the yellow part, you can see the decision of AI, and on the blue part, you can see the decision of the human being. So this is only after training the AI model with 10 hours of data, not more. So this is this is not the current state, but this is just the earliest stage. I want to show you how fast this fixed routes application can be realized. So, I mean, this is a very long video. You can see, and we can continue and even go to the hardest part of the route, which are the roundabouts, actually, or intersections. From automation, they are the hardest part to automate, and but it still works quite well. So, and it's very close to the human. And what we are now currently doing is we are collecting the data from the existing fleet, and we run the algorithms and then compare human to our own digital driver. And so far, we are extremely happy with the solution, and that's why we strongly believe that we can reach this middle mile automation now. So yeah, this video can continue for a very long period of time. Then I propose to go to the next slide. Maybe also some question regarding the legislations. Is it possible right now to put autonomous driving on the public road? The answer is yes. As you have seen, France was the first company to put the rules for autonomous driving on the public road, then followed by European Union and Germany. Now we have it in the United Kingdom, in Switzerland, Austria and Italy. They are also following. So it is possible. The regulation is not anymore a barrier. And then how everything works, irrelevant of which country we are talking about, they are all referring to the same harmonized rules. So therefore, from a Loxo perspective, we are not building according to different country-specific rules. We are building according to harmonized rules technology so that we can easily exporting. So just to let you know that in the coming months, we are also going to be on the public road of Germany. So if you are curious to learn more, come to me. I will be here around. Thank you.
Thanks, Amin. Again, I take the first question here on site. Any remote joiners, please fill in the chat field. Who's having a question? Florian.
Hi, Florian from GLS. I was just wondering, because we learned about the idea of mobile parcel lockers, couldn't you navigate a parcel locker with your technology, a mobile one? I mean, it would not solve the inner city problem, but coming close to the city and, you know, a parcel locker being emptied and filled and then drive back to the depot?
From technology, it's definitely possible, but from the business case, if you have your autonomous vehicle with very expensive sensor and computers, and it has to wait for hours and hours without using it, I'm not sure if the business case looks great. But if in the future it is possible by some mechanical mechanism to bring the locker somewhere, drop it, and then go to the next point, that could be a solution, yes.
Like a trailer.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Any other questions here from on site?
Just a question. Well, it's from GLS over dark. What about the costs for doing a delivery with a mobile autonomous?
What are the costs?
Well, if you think about the size of the vehicle, the amount of parcels to go on there versus the way it is today and what the customers are paying for, how do you think that will be in the future?
Well, if we apply our business model on it, this is depending on the use case. We can improve it by 25 to 50%. This is really depending on the use case, but I mean, in the range of 20 to 30% is really realistic.
Yeah, Stefano.
Hello, Stefano from GLS Studio. So, yeah, really interesting. I wonder, what is your criteria for the scope of this project? Like, what is a micro hub? What do you need? If I have a big shop, can I use it? And I have 100 parcels a day, you know, what's the scope?
Yeah, a very good question, actually. That was also a main question because we are doing that with the city of Bern, which is the capital of Switzerland, and they were asking the same question. So do you want to build the physical hubs? Oh, no. For us, in this project that we do, the micro hubs are just big parking places. In Europe we have the yellow parking places across the city, which are dedicated for the delivery vans. And now we are working with the cities that we can book them in advance. So not that we are surprised we go there and we don't have the possibility. So we just need a bit more space. So we select the yellow parking slots which are a bit bigger. Therefore, we can transfer the boxes from Loxo vehicles to the last mile delivery vehicles. So no additional cost on the infrastructure.
I would take one more question here from on-site. Any question? Nope. All right. Then bear with me for a second. Matthias, please come up. We'll just grab our chairs here. If we can connect Ali, that would be great, and can continue with a little closing round here.
Heavy.
Solid.
Like this.
Hi, Ali. You're back. Great to have you here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. First of all, thank you. First of all, applause for our speakers here. And my first question is, or where I like to bring the speakers together here, is about dedicated talk, to maybe connecting to some guys here from the audience asking questions. It's about productivity. We know productivity is a major topic in parcel delivery, and let's not forget. A delivery driver on one day delivers up to 150, 170, sometimes 200 packs. And I've seen many innovation over the last couple of years that actually failed because they were just not fast enough, because they had this lack of little bit of know-how, that were a little bit too error prone, because this last % of error that happened with this autonomous or whatever solution created such an effect. To fix this 1% of error, you needed all the productivity gains that you actually saved beforehand. So, coming from that productivity aspects in your various contacts, Ali, Matthias, maybe starting with you, because you said concept of remote drivers 1 to 25. But how fast do these vehicles actually go? I can imagine those vehicles are able to serve 200 stops, to be honest.
Yeah, no, actually, in terms of speed, we are talking about the low to medium, which is up to 60. Yeah. So, but majority of city, at least in Switzerland, they are now limited to 30. So speed is to be accepted somehow. But if it comes to the productivity, I think there are 2 points. The loading phase. A lot of our customers think that the loading the vehicle can. They think about automated loading. But then we have also a lot of jobs to be done for transferring the goods at the micro hubs. And this is mainly how to train people, how the mechanical system that they are compatible to each other. And I think it's still too early for us also to say how efficient we are at that point. But I think this is a job to be done.
Calling to Dallas. Ali, you also talked about productivity in your presentation in regards of saved dwell time, right? The dwell time is there, and you talked about orchestrational means, about more transparency. How do you think can actually play this effect into productivity? How much do you think actually can be saved due to this means, and how does this play into it?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. I think the issue of blind handoffs is essentially it creates waste and it impacts productivity. So the dwell time, the technologies that are addressing this, I think if you can avoid the dwell time is avoidable. I think as and a lot of this, what's stopping the drivers from getting to 200 deliveries, and as I mentioned, a lot of them get paid based on the number of deliveries they do, not the number of hours they work. And of course, there are restrictions on having them work more than 8 hours. So within those 8-hour window, if you can increase the productivity, you can increase the pay for the driver. And the dwell time is the significant contributor to that, which is because they're unable to reach the customer or the recipient. And that means that they'll have to wait. and that's the dwell that we talk about. So if you can enable efficient communication, coordination through providing visibility or providing some sort of like a handover point, which could also be one solution, could be physical, which is the lockers. That's where I think you can take about, we have seen dwell time contribute up as much as like 70% to the cost of the total cost of the last mile of the blind handouts associated with it. So to your question, I think if you can solve that, you can take about at least 70% of the cost out of the picture.
Matthias, from your perspective, I mean, you talked a lot about increasing variety of drop-off possibilities, right? But this to overcome the gap of drivers, the gap of actually delivery capacity, especially in urban areas. But this has to work out also operationally.
Yeah,
you know,
I said we need more. I'm just saying there's a lot happening in that space.
A lot happening in space,
which is not the same. But I mean, I think for me, just maybe to put that, I think traditionally logistics has been a very manual, paper-based, inefficient industry. I mean, generally speaking, across logistics, I think there happens a lot, and I think what we see a lot as well, what I've seen is that we tend to automate processes that are not really robust or optimized. Sometimes. So I think that what people try to skip is we really have to first have proper processes and efficient processes in place and data before we start automating. That's, I think, also like the middle mile is easier because it's a bit more predictable. It's a pretty kind of standard route. If you go to the last mile, there's much more variety. There's less data available, and also I think a lot of inconsistency in productivity. So I think the first step for me is really, and that's where you guys are already helping, provide more transparency and visibility. And that is in parcel centers. I mean, there's a lot of parcel centers where we have a lot of automation put in, but I think we're still not happy with the productivity. Because for some reasons, that automation doesn't really give us the productivity we expected us to give. And that is really, I think we need to establish the data and the visibility first before we start putting fancy automation on top. So I think, and back to the first question, I think on the variety, I think it's more about we need to find ways, and that could be, I think what you mentioned, like really reducing the volume, and the many different ways we have to look at. There's not one silver bullet to solve this, I think. That's what I mean. I think we have to look at different options, and it will be a mix of autonomous solutions, a mix of reducing packaging, a mix of changing behavior.
That was probably the beauty of the past, right? That there was only one bullet, which is a man in a van, and he had the problem, right? And now you have all this variety.
Yeah, way more complex. Yeah.
You are way more complex. You have different out-of-homes like lockers, PUDOs. Autonomously driving parcel lockers. We heard about that idea. That's actually also being piloted in some countries. But with every variety added, there comes more complexity. Not only in this like immediate point of delivery or acceptance for the consignee, but also in the sortation beforehand, right? So I'm adding more errors with everything, and I wonder when's the tipping point? What would you say? Like the more variety we add, I mean, great for the consignees, but at some point it has to like reach certain productivity levels.
I mean, again,
are we okay with lockers and PUDOs? And then
we're very process driven. I think robust processes is always the starting point. And then you can iterate, but I think if you start to automate inefficient processes that are broken, then it's falling apart.
Ali, what would you say? How much variety can we add in the end to still keep the system running and not have more effort fixing the problem with the complexity that we created?
So I do agree with Matthias. I think you need to standardize some of the processes and try to remove some of the inefficiencies that exist. I do think you can add more variety, like moving warehouses, and I think that adds more capability, more flexibility. But I think the underlying processes, and I think technology, again, I'm a tech enthusiast, as many of you are as well. I do think there is opportunity to automate and provide this visibility as well as automation in this space. So I do think as you add variety, you'll bring technology is going to add play a significant role in solving some of these inefficiencies that exist.
I mean, let me come to the last point that I want to discuss with you about, which is the human factor, right? All of us tech enthusiastic about technology, we believe in this, but unfortunately, we tend to forget that sometimes, it's the last bit of the human factor that has to be transformed, actually, right? And those are humans out there. They have certain habits like we do, and they don't like to change. Consignees as well as drivers and others. So, how much variety can we create in the future? And I mean, you are on the forefront here. Have you had any experience with actually how people react to the services that you provide, consignees, but also the delivery companies or even delivery drivers? Yeah. Do they see you as competition? Are they scared to lose their job because they see your like autonomous vans or remotely driven vans on the street?
Yeah, I mean, no. They don't think that we are going to replace them, because if we look, I'm now focusing on the driver. If we look, what is the job of driver for middle mile delivery between micro hub and the city hub? He or she needs to drive 15 times a day, same route, 255 days a year. This is a bit boring. So they would love to change their job to become a teleoperator or remote driver. This is more digital. They can see more variety of the cities. So a lot of customers and drivers, they see also this automation part as a challenge to give the boring job to the robot. But nevertheless, I agree that we need still human, probably mainly for the last miles, because we need this human touch, and humans are very, very flexible and efficient.
I mean, Matthias, you brought it up as one factor, and one risk factor, if I remember correctly, this transformational effort, actually implementing technology and bringing people on board to actually use it, to utilize it, to apply it. What's your view on this? How much of impact is this human factor?
I think it's an important factor, but I don't think it's a roadblock. It just has to be managed properly. It's a lot about communication. I mean, when I was still at DHL, we did use a lot of new technology and kind of operations. The first reaction is kind of, what does it actually mean? But I think you really have to make people understand that it's actually, particularly if you're in a growing business with volumes growing, typically it's not about replacing jobs. It's more about you're just shifting roles, right? And that's kind of, and you're upgrading roles to some extent. But that's how you make people view it as well. So there's a lot of change, and I think what I was referring to is more also on the consumer side. I think if you have all those variety of choices, I think where people like you guys come into place, you have to still make it a very easy experience from a customer perspective. So they should not be burdened by those different methods and modes and everything else, but they just want to have a choice and have a preference. Then the system has to be orchestrated as well. And that's why I think technology is so important. The more choices you have, the harder it becomes, or the more important it becomes to technology to help orchestrate it.
I came across one pretty tough blocker once, and especially in Eastern European countries, the actual tipping in cash of drivers is quite common. And this is quite a blocker for digital technology, because this is income for delivery drivers untaxed, right? So it's cash money.
Can you tip robots? That's the question.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is, we also had the example, I think, Ali, you brought it up with the phone calls, right? I mean, a driver is happy to accept a phone call if he gets a couple of euros as tip, right? And if he only looks into a digital tool, he may not give this tip, and the driver may lose part of their income, right? So this is where it really sometimes the improvement of technology is kind of contradiction to the human factor that we have in delivery, right? I mean, Ali, have you come? The US is a little bit different, right? Because you tend to have a porch delivery, so delivery drivers basically drop the parcel on the porch without collecting a signature. Do you have the same kind of blockers implementing digital technology, like tipping or something else?
So a great point. I think there are a couple of things I want to come to. So this varies depending on the type of industry you're operating. So if you're a courier operator, couriers, when they're doing e-commerce delivery, that's where generally, again, North America focused, they drop it off on the porch, and they leave, and the handoff is minimal, where they don't have to meet the recipient. So at that point, the tipping does not exist. But when you go to other industries, such as like the food delivery, when you're delivering to restaurants or to businesses, or grocery delivery, when you're delivering to households and you need to have that handoff, that's where tipping does exist. There are applications, and even grocery, when you place an order, when I place my order through online grocery, there's an option to tip or tip on when the driver arrives. So that has been built. But the other factor, coming to the question of the human factor, which I think is going to remain, because from a business to business standpoint, your drivers are the face of the franchise, face of the company, and they're not just to do the delivery. It's to essentially a sales role as well, where they're building the relationship with the storefront, with a small storefront or the operator, and identifying, like, just getting the intel on the ground, like what products are selling well, what we are seeing, what are some trends, and reporting back. That's some of the leading brands are capitalizing on. They're investing in the drivers who can engage with the customers and build that customer. So your driver experience drives your customer experience. So we see this, like, even with as Amin was talking about earlier, like if you have the autonomous delivery vehicles, you will have the human on the loop function, which will engage and build upon these experiences. So I'm optimistic about the future on that.
I mean, generally it's an optimistic view to not lose the human factor, right? We don't want to be replaced at all, but we want to keep it nice, neat, have a great user experience, a great variety. I want to thank you, speakers, to bring your individual view onto the future of last mile delivery. That was great and insightful. I want to thank you guys for joining this event today, and I wish you a great networking event. Please give the speakers applause. Give yourself an applause. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Last Mile Delivery Meetup. We hope you enjoyed the exclusive insights and discussions shared during this podcast. If you are interested in finding out more about upcoming events, technological updates, and industry news, subscribe to the Bettermile newsletter. The link is in our bio. Thanks for listening.